Guys, time now. We are joined by him every week at this time. Dan Miller. You can watch us every day on fox2detroit.com and the Fox Local app. How you doing, Dan?
Hey, Dan.
What's up, fellas? How you doing?
Good to see you.
Doing great. How was your Sunday off? Did you get a chance to lay on the couch and watch football and maybe get some DoorDash or Uber Eats or whatever you get delivered to the
couple Modelos?
I didn't do anything Thursday. I didn't do anything Friday. I didn't do anything Saturday. I didn't do anything Sunday. It was glorious. I watched football. I sat on the couch. I ate, and it was wonderful. We've had 3 Sundays off this year because of the 2 Thursday games.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, it's not been like most years we haven't had any, but it was great. And it comes at just a perfect time, right in the middle of the season. You kind of gear up to go. So, man, I loved it. Little red zone on one TV, another game on another TV. I was set.
Dan, we were just talking about that too, because you talk about being rested and rejuvenated. If you look at this Lions team, the offensive line is all back, and this will be the first game. I think this is huge. This will be the first game that Montgomery, Gibbs, J-Mo, Amon-Ra, and Laporta have all played together. And this is the 2nd-ranked offense in the league. Only behind Miami. I mean, this is a really good time now for these guys, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, what you're talking about is the vision. This is what they kind of saw themselves being when they drafted these guys and brought these guys in and kind of saw this offense during the offseason. And, you know, this offense is, and Jared Goff has said this and Dan Campbell said this, they've left a lot out there. I mean, there's been opportunities to do more than what they've done. And I think, you know, their red zone ranking is not good. I think there's a lot they can improve on. So while they've won and while they've scored some points, I think they'd be the first to tell you that as they get all these guys back together, they want to now start to ascend and get better as they head into the second half of the season, because there's been opportunities to do more than they have. But I think your point is a good one. Now we can see how these guys all work together, and we got to see this thing start to come together.
D-Mill, is always a pleasure to talk to you. I'm gonna jump and dive right into it as it relates to the Chargers. I think they're one of those teams that is it's a fake team when you. That sounds terrible. Let me start over. It's one of those teams where you look at the name. I had to start over, Dan. I'm sorry. I don't want to discredit. I don't like Brandon Staley, and maybe it's coming out of me that way. No pause. But when you look at that team, you hear the names. You hear Joey Bosa. You hear Khalil Mack. You hear Derwin James. You hear Keenan Allen. You hear the names, and it looks different. But just watching them play, they're not a team. And when I watched what they did against the New York Jets, they destroyed that offensive line that has been horrible all season. When I look at the Detroit Lions, I expect the team to go out there, win handily. They don't have to win by a lot, but I expect the Lions to go out there and be the better team. If it's 4 points but it's strong, it's 4 points and it's strong.
You know, Braylon, I can't wrap my arms around this team. I don't know what they are because I've seen them at times where they look good. Listen, Herbert can look great, and then there's some times where there'll be a throw, less this year, but there'll be a throw where you're like, not sure what he's doing. But look, man, he's a huge guy with a huge arm that can hurt you there. He can hurt you with his legs. Eckler is an outstanding player that can hurt you in a variety of ways. Keenan Allen's on track to have the best year of his career at the age of 31. Quentin Johnston, we saw what he did in college. He's a nice player there. They've got explosive guys. Palmer, they've got explosive guys that I think I look at that offense and I'm like, you know what? If they get hot, that's one you got to worry about. Then defensively, look, you saw what they did to the Jets, and the Jets are struggling right now offensively, obviously. But to your point, there is something about this Charger team that you don't look at them and think, wow. But I don't look at them and think, you know, that they're in trouble either. I think they're still trying to figure things out.
Okay.
And I think they're a team that's capable of having a big day. I just think for all the guys that we just mentioned, that's a lot of NFL talent. And I just think, to me, they just haven't found that consistency yet. But I think it's a possibility they can.
Yeah, thank you for cleaning up what I said. I appreciate what you said much better. I appreciate what you said a lot better than what I did. Are you as excited as I am as it relates to Ben Johnson having every tool in the shed now. I think we've been waiting for this. I think he's been waiting for this. Are you as excited as I am?
I am, and I want to see how he uses it. I want to see how he uses those two backs. So are we now going to see more of the Jameer that we heard about? Look, not that he's bad in the backfield, he's terrific, but that means taking Montgomery out, which they will do at times. But when those two play together and we see Jameer in the slot or Jameer even out wide, are we going to start to see that now where his receiving skills can be utilized? I still remember that crossing pattern he had earlier in the year that he dropped. I'd like to see him get a couple more shots at that, because with his speed, crossing, getting the ball in stride, he can be devastating. Start to throw Laporta in there with what he's doing. This offensive line coming back together with Amon-Ra, with J-Mo, with Reynolds, who's played really well this year and bailed them out at times. Yeah, I'm really excited to see what it can be. But I'm not even sure how good it can be. I think it can be really good, but we haven't seen it together yet. I want to see how he does it, and I'm particularly intrigued to see how he utilizes the two speed guys, J-Mo, to try to get him going, and then Gibbs. Once Montgomery's back there, you don't want him off the field a lot, so how are they going to use him? And then, look, we know what Amon-Ra is. He's a star, and Laporta has just been terrific. So, yeah, man, I'm really excited to see how they do this and how they utilize it, because if there's one thing that I think we can all agree that Goff has done, man, he just takes what you give him, and he's comfortable throwing it to anybody on that offense. So you're going to have to pick your poison, and I think at full strength, this offense could be a problem for some people if they get it together.
Talking to Dan Miller, Fox 2 sports director, and of course, voice of the Lions. Dan, look, there's no perfect roster in the NFL, but doesn't it feel like with the second half of the season and everybody getting healthy, that the Lions have everything they need, and they will go as far as they will go based on what they do and not what somebody else has to do, or you're hoping this guy's out for the other team, or that guy might maybe Dak Prescott will be out. It doesn't matter who they're playing. It doesn't matter. They have everything they need. Doesn't it feel like it's all up to them at this point?
I think you're more comfortable than we have been for years saying that they can go into any game and win. And they can, when you go into Kansas City and you go into Lambeau at the end of last year when they have everything on the line, when you put those games together, and Lambeau to a lesser degree this year because they obviously aren't the same team, but when you do that, it gives you confidence that they can play with anybody. And look, I still want to see somebody else on that defensive line when they just send four. Not when they're sending Anzalone or sending, Tracy Walker, who had a sack last week. But when you're just sending four, who else is going to win on critical passing downs outside of Aiden? Is Aleem going to continue to play the way that he did last week and the way that he has at times this year? Because if he brings that kind of consistency from the interior, this is a different team. That's a different defense. But that's my biggest question, is when you get into a critical time late in the game and somebody else needs to score, are you going to be able to pressure with four, dropping seven? Because effectively, it seems like teams can take Aiden out at times. Because if you put two guys on him and you're chipping him with a third at time, life is really difficult for him. Somebody else has to win. That's my question, Ryan, about where they are right now roster-wise and where they are right now in terms of being able to compete.
Yeah, Dan, you took the words out of my mouth. You had Aiden Hutchinson on your lips there, and I was going to ask you about him. Do you feel that because of what's happened in the last few games to him, do you think his confidence is down a little? Do you think he needs a big game here to get going again? Or do you think it's just he's getting double and triple teamed and it's time for somebody else to do something to help out?
I think he's getting, Matt, I think he's getting a lot of attention. I really do. And I think, he's relentless out there. He's got that motor that, the Max Crosbys have and the Bosa's have. He's got that motor where he just keeps coming at you. I don't think he lacks confidence. I think he knows perfectly what he's capable of doing. I think I don't think confidence will ever be a problem with him. And I'm not saying that in a negative way. It's just who he is, and it's part of what makes him who he is. But look, other teams know that if you can handle the other guys with one player, you can swing more of your protection towards him. And I think that's what's happened. So as guys around him get better, and I keep bringing him up, and I still think he's a wild card as Pascal. I'm hopeful that he can be a guy that can over these last 9 games, A, be healthy, and B, be impactful. As somebody else steps forward, and as somebody else, like Houston did last year, makes plays, that's going to make life easier on Aiden because it makes it more difficult for the other team just to concentrate on him.
How about on the offensive side? The guys already told you they got their full complement, but now you add Donovan Peoples-Jones to the team as well. What do you expect out of him, number 19? Maybe not as much this week, but what do you think they go? Is he like a Josh Reynolds type guy, or describe what he is to me?
He's got size. I think that's where you start. And in the red zone, he's obviously got the ability to body somebody up and make a contested catch and give a bigger target down there to Jared Goff. And look, they've had some trouble in the red zone. And what he is also insurance that if Jameson's not catching the ball or Jameson doesn't find stride soon, they can start working him in a little bit. And he gives you some backup if you need a return guy. He gives you some backup if any of your receivers get hurt. Look, Antoine Green is a rookie. He's not ready to necessarily step in at this point. And then you're talking about going and getting a Dylan Drummond or somebody like that if you have another injury. So, look, getting a guy who has played at a high level in this league and taken a lot of snaps in this league, there's no downside to that. And I don't know how much he's going to play if everybody's healthy. That's a Ben Johnson thing, which I, like you guys, will be interested to see. But, look, he's got some talent. He brings some intangibles, and I think it was a really nice add at a position where you kind of looked at it and said, okay, if they get a couple of guys beat up like they have had at times, that could be a problem.
Hey, Dan, this is kind of a off-the-wall one, but kind of goofy. We love announcers. This will be the 9th game the Lions play, and this will be the 6th time in 9 games that a network has had their top broadcasting pairing do a Lions game.
Tony?
You had NBC with Tirico, 2 Fox games, an Amazon game, an ESPN game, and now Nance and Tony with CBS. What is it about this Detroit Lions story that the country cannot get enough of?
Well, I think it's a couple things. One, I think the country, I don't want to say fell in love, that's too strong, but the country became really intrigued by them on Hard Knocks. I think a lot of people saw that. A lot of people saw Dan Campbell, Aaron Glenn, Deuce at the time that he was here, and a group of players that's likable. So I think that was part of it because, look, the Lions were basically forgotten for a long time. I think that kind of put them back on the map. And then winning 8 out of 10 at the end of last year, being on national television, the only game on, the final game of the regular season with huge ramifications against the Packers, left everybody thinking at the end of last year there's something going on in Detroit. And then I think you saw the byproduct of that was getting opening night against the Chiefs. 4 weeks later, 3 weeks later, getting Thursday night against Green Bay, getting Monday night against the Raiders. Those things don't happen if you don't win 8 out of 10 at the end of last year. There's a reason that was the first Monday night game at Ford Field in 5 years. And the only reason they got one in 2018 was because people were intrigued by Matt Patricia. I mean, that was his first game. So, Ryan, they've earned it. They've earned it with the way they've played. They also play an exciting brand of football. They've got playmakers. They've put on a good show. And I think that's what people have kind of been drawn to. And Campbell is a guy that people like. I think people, they made fun of him early, but I think very quickly people have realized there's a whole lot more to him than the 15 seconds out of a 90-minute press conference when he got introduced. And I think all those things have added up to people being intrigued by who they are, what they're doing, and believing that if you put them on, you're going to get a good show. And that's why they're getting these primetime games or A teams as they're getting this week on CBS.
D, I have a great question. I lied to you. This is my last question, I promise you. I just saw this. It was about another team, so I stole it for the Detroit Lions. You yourself, Dan Miller, would you want the Lions to have the number 1 seed and get a bye? Or would you want the Lions to get the number 2 seed, play 2 home games at home, and essentially, well, I'll just leave it there.
I'll take a bye.
Yeah, I knew it.
Hey, and that means I don't get paid. So that's me giving up myself.
Wow.
But no, I would take a bye. I mean, look, if you get the bye,
right,
that means your next game is at Ford Field, and if you win, your next game is at Ford Field. So that means you've locked up home field throughout if you get that bye, because only one team gets the bye. So, look, I would take that, and short of that, Braylon, I do think that's a good discussion because getting that number 2 seed could also be critical because that means you might miss Dallas or you might miss Seattle and you might get the back end of the NFC, which whether it's Minnesota, Washington, or whoever it is, I think you'd rather play them than end up playing a team like, as I said, Seattle or Dallas. Dallas could come up just short against Philadelphia. Seattle could come up just short against San Francisco. So the difference between the 2 and the 3 seed, if you don't get the 1, could be significant as well. So I think those are all things to watch. But what it really says is keep winning, man, because, and this is obvious, the higher seed you get, the better road that you get through the playoffs.
I just don't want to go to Philly. That's the only place I don't want to play at.
Yeah, I mean, and you may end up doing that if you last long enough and get to the NFC Championship or whatever. I mean, look, they got 9 games left. We've all seen some things that we thought were going to go well and haven't. So what they need to do is go beat the Chargers.
Yeah,
and
of course.
maybe have the Saints beat the Vikings, which would be cool. But you know what? They have to handle their business because all the things we're talking about, it's incumbent upon them to put themselves in that position. And look, Minnesota's not making it easy on these guys. They've got work to do to go ahead and win this division, and that's probably a good thing because there's no laying back for these guys. They know that team's right on their tail. They know that team has 2 games left against them. So you know what? Go out there, handle your business, and things will go the way you want them to go because if they continue to handle them. Look, Philly's got a tough schedule coming up. I don't really play the schedule game, but we know they do. And if the Lions do what they're capable of doing, then they're going to be in a good position at the end of the year. But you got to go out there and do it.
All right, make us jealous. Where are you going in L.A.? What's the dinner like? Fill us in on a L.A. road trip with the Miller clan.
Hey, man, it's just
TJ
personal
and I were flipping through some restaurants last night trying to figure out what we wanted to do. Are we, are we going, seafood on the water? Or are we thinking, just standard beef somewhere else? So up in the air at this point, but we're gonna find something to do on Saturday night. But I'll be honest with you guys, as the old guy, I like going out, having dinner, maybe a drink or two. Then I'll be in my bed watching college football and getting ready for the next day. So
amen to that.
I
Big
can promise
one.
you, whatever it is, it won't be a late night, but we'll have some fun.
And it'll be a big one on Fox this Saturday, Michigan and Penn State. Maybe you'll watch a little bit of that on the ride out there.
We definitely will. I hope we have live TV on the plane. That's the problem that you never know there is because a lot of times these bigger planes give you all the entertainment in the world, but you don't have live TV. So I'm hoping we do because obviously I want to watch that.
Oh, my gosh. All right. Good stuff, Dan Miller. We'll enjoy the call.
Ermanni would just say, I'm not going. He get on the plane.
This is true. This is true.
I'm good.
I'll take the night flight.
Weddings, trips, work. It's all canceled for the Michigan games.
I'll take the 4 o'clock.
Go blue, Dan.
4 o'clock flight out of DTW. Bye. All right, Dan, we'll see you. And again, you can check us out, fox2detroit.com and the Fox local app each and every day. Woodward Sports on Fox 2.